evening. I am Mark Thiel, and welcome to Final Score. It's our sports show where we'll talk about the headlines and the newsmakers of the week. Tonight, the Barbados Bodybuilding and Fitness Federation planning a brighter future after the recent CAC Championships. And road tennis is taking off in Canada. Just how big is it getting? We'll be going over there to find out tonight. But of course, you, our viewers, can make your contributions and ask your questions via social media. Our WhatsApp number is 228-5562, while our Facebook handles are CBC Barbados or cbcnews.bb. So let's get to it. Barbados' recent participation at the CAC Bodybuilding and Fitness Championships in Aruba, with the team finishing with 1 victory, 4 second places, and 4 third places across the various categories. Julian Belgrave's exceptional performance secured gold in the Masters men's physique category and stood out as the highlight of Barbados' representation. With us tonight to talk about our bodybuilding history, where we're at now, and the plans going forward, our head coach Shakira Dougling and the public relations officer of the Barbados Bodybuilding and Fitness Federation, Ivor Royal. Good evening, lady and gentlemen. Welcome to Final Score. And first thing, let's go to the coach and let's get your take on the state of bodybuilding and fitness in Barbados as it stands right now.
Barbados as it stands right now is that we are in an amazing position. We would have taken a team of 11 members. 8 out of that 11 would have received medals or would have placed on stage. And that is a great positioning for a young team. All of the members of the team were probably about 2 years into their bodybuilding journey, which is a significant achievement within 2 years. Normally, a lot of competitors, even all the way beyond, that would have started beyond 2000s, would have only seen that level of success within their years competing. They would have seen that at about 10 years. And we have athletes achieving this within 2 years. So I think that was an amazing result for a lot of them, and I hope that they all continue. It also definitely displays what we are capable of and what we do have the foundation to move forward with.
Indeed, and Barbados is one of the winningest countries in the history of CAC bodybuilding and fitness. So how far are we away from getting back there, and how do we get to that rebuilding stage? Don't know if Ivor, you would like to jump in there, or I think coach, you need to answer that one as well. Let's do it.
I agree.
Ivor, you deal with the history of Barbados being one of the winningest teams in you've been around forever, Ivor.
Well, somewhat, even though I'm still a young man. Thank you very much for having me on. There's been some transformation. We have moved forward. We must understand that we cannot compare bodybuilding and fitness now as it was in the 70s and the 80s. A number of countries have moved forward, but in Barbados' case, we have always remained there. When we take into consideration the team, as my colleague would have just alluded to, we have done very well. I would have indicated some time ago that we have a number of older persons from other countries who are making their way out. We have a young team of members coming through, and we will again pick up and go from there. 50 years, I've been around for 43, and I've seen the changes. We are well poised again, and we are fortunate that we've had 3 successive ministers of government. Mr. John King, Mr. Dwight Sutherland, now Mr. Charles Griffith, who have behaved as though they were running a relay. One started with a position, the other one took it up and improved on it, the other one has taken it up and is improving on it. And this has helped us. We also have the National Sports Council with the chairman and the director and the team who understand and appreciate what we're doing. They know the history of us and the contribution we have made. So we are well poised from both angles to go forward with those persons helping us.
So Shakira, how far are we from getting back there? Of course, you guys have said the foundation is there. How soon can we build upon that foundation and actually get back to winning? Because we won a gold, we got some silver, bronze, but we have a history of actually winning the whole thing.
Yeah, I definitely think that we are poised to win. What is missing here is a little bit of context because within a period of, let's say, 2016 until about 2019, we did experience several changes that would have impacted bodybuilding overall, probably in the entire world. But contextually in Barbados, we would have had some incidences that would have affected the momentum of bodybuilding, significant ones like, we would have had a world event, COVID. Bodybuilding is directly tied to having financial stability and being able to afford the sport. But in terms of moving forward, CAC used to be the climax of bodybuilders' careers. Now we have an array of events where an athlete can spread out their pursuits throughout the year. You can have an athlete doing, even in my case, would have done 11 contests in 1 year. So before we had athletes whose only a chance to get on a pro stage was a world championship or CAC. They now have several pro qualifiers to get their pro cards, and that also affects our CAC numbers because if we have athletes getting their pro cards at other shows overseas, it means that we would have less pickings in terms of amateurs to go to the CAC championship depending on where they choose to do their other shows. So what I would say is that we are still poised to win shows. We have been getting pro cards at other pro qualifier events. And once we keep promoting the event in a positive light, we will be able to have more athletes or let's say more people joining us to be a part of the crop to get their professional cards as well and continue winning like we have been.
Coach, I like the last part that you said there about getting more people to join in, and Ivor, I'd like you to get back in here as well. Now, is there a promotion plan to get more interest in the sport? Ivor, are you hearing us? Or Coach,
Okay, maybe
Ivor?
I can just
Yes,
jump in
go,
there
go right
quickly
ahead. Yes, please do.
until we have done significant work. Some people would have known about the Roger Boyce Elite Pro Classic, which would have been the Darcy Beckles interregional invitational as an amateur event that would have pulled a lot of the amateurs within the region who have come to Barbados and used that stage as a stepping stone. They've gone forward to come to Barbados again once we now have the professional event, which is the Roger Boyce Elite Pro Classic now, to get their professional cards. Once we continue to host events in Barbados like we have been, 2019 we had the Darcy Beckles Diamond Cup, which was the first professional event that had a professional stage in the Caribbean. Then after that, we would have hosted the CAC championships in Barbados last year, 2022. And then this year we had a world championship brought to the Caribbean for the first time. I think we are on the right trajectory. Once we, as I said, continue to just demonstrate that we do have it in us to not only host events, but we do have the room for more athletes to come and join us. We will do what we need to do in terms of having more winnings.
Okay, well, that's a good place for us to take a break. And still to come, we'll have questions from our viewers and followers on social media. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're with Shakira Duglin and Ivor Worrell of the Barbados Bodybuilding and Fitness Federation. Let's now go to our social media pages for some questions, and let's see what's the first one that will come up there. Shakira, I think you'll take this one. There's too much focus now on fitness contests. The sport has changed. I think this contributor is talking about that once upon a time it was all bodybuilding, men and women, but fitness seems to be getting more popular.
Definitely, I can speak about that because I do have personal experience. When I joined the sport, the only class they would have had would have been for females would have been women's bodybuilding and women's figure. But across the world, 2011, they introduced bikini fitness because the numbers for women's bodybuilding classes were dwindling, and that same behavior would have impacted the larger bodybuilding classes. So you would have seen the introduction of men's physique. You would have seen the introduction after that with muscular men's physique, classic physique, all classes that are a little smaller than the larger bodybuilding classes. All promoters across the world, including the US, were affected by the fact that, to do a bodybuilding class is a huge personal feat. Not only financial, it's emotional. You have to put a lot of effort into getting into that size only for the stage of the stage, because it does take several weeks to maintain that physique. So in terms of being able to introduce people into bodybuilding who may or may not be interested in doing the larger classes, they had to introduce classes where people can work their way up to bodybuilding, large bodybuilding classes. So they would have introduced bikini fitness in 2011, and we had women's wellness being introduced way after that. But you would recognize even to this day, they are still introducing classes that seem not mainly focused on bodybuilding, so that they can attract persons to the sport who come from an array of backgrounds: yoga, dance, gymnastics. You have fit model, which is more of the pageantry line. So girls who are into Miss Universe, if they are keen on being a part of this type of sport, they can find a category that suits where they are currently. And then if they choose to continue, they can work their way up to the other classes. So basically what happened is that the sport grew to offer more, so that they have, let's say, they can cast their net wider to get more people into the sport. But obviously, we do recognize that there are less people doing bodybuilding, and that would have been happening with or without these classes.
Okay, so let's get Ivor in for the next question. This viewer says, Ivor, the rest of the region has caught up and now pass us out. Is that a fair comment?
It is not a fair comment. We must, as I would have said before, take into consideration there are changes. There are a number of new categories, and we must go with the flow. Barbados would have been at the forefront because of the fact that we were a founder member country. We had to jump, yes, but we have continued to do well. We have a young team, and I will emphasize this. The older folks are on their way out, and the younger persons are coming in, and Barbados is at the head of the pack. When you take into consideration 1 first, 4 seconds, 4 thirds, that's 9. That's 9. So I am saying with a young team, we are well poised. And I want to let the person who would have asked the question know this. In the 50s and the 60s, powerlifting was a thing. Bodybuilding came in, that went on the back burner. 70s, 80s, 90s, turn of the century. Fitness is in. Bodybuilding to some degree is on the back burner, and that was reflected at the CSC Games. It is also reflected at the Arnold Classic. It is reflected at the World Championships. So this is not anything only new to Barbados. It is something common. It is across the globe. Okay. What we must do is ask those persons who not only have criticism for us, but to also give us the support. Come out to the shows and help us as we go along.
Ivor, I would think that the people who are sending in these questions do go to your shows. I don't think there are people on the outside. But another question here, do we have any Darcy Beckles or Alberts Canterburys in the waiting room? Any one of the two of you can answer that. Do we have those types
Yeah,
of,
we
of
do.
Definitely
competitors in
do.
waiting?
Tell him, yes, we do.
I could
It's
mention
just a
we
matter
have
of time.
a gentleman. We have a gentleman by the name of Sinaj Lewis. He would have started his
Agreed.
competitive career within the past 2 years. He competed in Guyana and he's competed at several shows. And he has just started. And if you see the the amount of shows he has won, and he hasn't even put his foot down and settled in his classes yet to even be a Darcy Beckles. You can only imagine if he had time to prove he can be one of those people. People need time to grow in the sport. But what I would like to reflect on is that Barbados won the most pro cards in the Caribbean region before Elite Pro. Elite Pro started in September 2017 when the federation split, meaning that a lot of the pros we do have in Barbados would have won their pro cards for another federation. Rosalind Vanderpool, Lyndon Belgrave, Maurice Arthur, Ramon Dodson, Tanisha Lewis, Antoinette Downey, Saskia Griffith, Nikita Robinson, Tanisha Cross. These people became pros when the other Caribbean islands were probably sitting down and watching us and learning from us before we have what we have now. Actually, those persons would have make up the bulk of the CAC teams that we would have carried to the CAC championships. What we have to do now and what is currently happening is we have a young and new and fresh group. We also do have a number of pros who also were a part of CAC teams who cannot contribute to the CAC team. So it will be observed as if we have less people, but we're just having persons who are winning their pro cards at other events and they're unable to be a part of us as amateurs anymore, and they're doing their own thing, which you can do as a pro. So we just have to, as you say, put on our shows and advertise and get new persons into the sport, train them accordingly, and expose them to what is out there. And we will find people who can fill those voids that we have currently.
Okay, we have time for
Yes.
one more question there. Ivor, just trying to get it in.
Yes, thank you.
Actually, there are two more. I'd like to skip over the second last and go to the last one. When is the primary and secondary school competitions coming back?
Now, that is an area that the National Sports Council deals with. I would not want to go out of my footing and speak on that. But
But do you want
based
them
on
back
what
now?
I've
Do you
heard,
think
yes,
that they need them
it
back?
will be coming back because that is the foundation. If we get that going, and we will, then it feeds right into your junior component, which then feeds into your immediate component, which feeds into your national championships, which then feeds into CSE. But quickly to say something on Sinaj Lewis, I'm giving him 2 years. He is going to make our mouth water. He is a bright spark, and he will do very well.
Ivor World said so.
Ivor World says that.
No problem. We'll have you back on this show because unfortunately the time is up. I'd like to thank Shakira Duglin and Ivor Worrell for being with us. Of course, we look forward to having you back on the show. Like we said, this is the fastest 30 minutes and you guys only had 15. We still have road tennis to go. So
And we ran quickly.
Yes. Thank you very much. We'll have you back, of course. And after the break, we'll talk road tennis as we go to Canada to hear of the push that the sport is receiving up north. We'll be right back. We're back to final score as we say goodnight to Ron Kelman, a
Can you
Barbadian
hear me?
living in Canada, who's the man behind the growing popularity in Canada. Ron, first, give us a
Okay.
quick background, because you know we have a short time. Give us a quick background of how roller tennis was introduced in Canada.
Well, back in March 2022, we were on a call with the Ministry of Sport, the Permanent Secretary Yolande Howard, um, the Senior Sports Officer, Stephen Rowe, Errol Griffith, myself, Mark Gravett from the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame, and Dan Giant from the Hall of Fame as well.
So from the initial entry, give us a quick progress report as to from the introduction up to where we are now, and then we can get to what you've been doing behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. But tell us, where we were and what we have done and where we are now.
Well, when we had our first phone call in March, road tennis had never come up. So when Errol said, "What about road tennis?" I said, "What about road tennis?" So we went away from the call, and I was in touch with the hall, badgering them, said, "Let's give this a try." So 3 days later, they came back and said, "Let's do it." And I called Errol, and they said, "Yes." He said, "Yes to what?" So I sent them the email, and he's like, "But this says Barbados demonstration, not road tennis." So I called the president of the Hall of Fame. He said, "Yes, we're going to do road tennis." So that was March 2022. We did in May, we did a Hall of Fame gala where we had about 500 people at this, black tie event playing road tennis. The unique thing about this, Daniel Nestor was going into the hall that year. Daniel is Canada's greatest doubles tennis player. And so Daniel was playing road tennis that night, which was kind of really cool. And, his daughter was playing and some other folks said, "Okay, let's try." So a lot of folks tried road tennis for the first time that night. So that brought us there. Then we moved into the schools this year. We had, back in January, we had about 28 people in the Aurora Town Hall and also online in Barbados talking about road tennis. So we went away from there with some things to do. We came back, we did our part, and we just kept going. So where we're at now, we're inside 3 school boards. York, where my boys went to school in the York region, Toronto, where I went to school, and Peel, where my personal friend is the associate director out in Peel. So, we're working with people which makes it a lot easier to move things around and get things done.
So Ron,
So
put a perspective on that. When you said they're in 3 regions, what are the numbers like?
Wow. Okay, so in York, you've got 213 schools, 131,000 students. Toronto, you have 558 or 560 schools, about 430, 440,000 students. And in Peel, you have, again, about 220,000 students. So you're looking there. So in all of Ontario, there are 2 million students in school, 5,000 schools. So between York, Toronto, and Peel, we're almost at 1 million students. No, it's not so much, but we're getting close.
So when you have
And
those numbers, what is the intention in the schools? Is it recreation, part of the physical education class, working towards actually making a full-fledged sport? Where are we as far as that is concerned, and what is the plan?
That's a great question. So where we're at right now, I can tell you, Mark, yesterday, York Region and I spoke, and we're about to proceed right now in York Region, where they will now have 25 schools in a pilot project where we're going to gather all kinds of data from road tennis and use that to help us. So this pilot will run from next week until the end of the school year, where they'll have a championship. So that's where we are. That's how fast we've moved this bar.
Well, and you were sharing some video with me and a kind of a challenge where it has also reached now the police in Toronto.
Yes,
Tell us about that.
correct. So working with an old basketball friend of mine who's a police officer. And we had a conversation. So there's in the Toronto board, well, all police boards have this, but in the Toronto board, they have a partnership where it's they want to engage with the community. So sitting down with my friend, we said, okay, let's bring this to the Boys and Girls Club of Canada, which we've done. So now the police and the Boys and Girls Club of Canada have embarked on a road tennis course where we started last night. Thursday night was our very first one. What's going to happen? We're going to do a 4-week pilot, and then we're going to have road tennis competition. There'll be road tennis events in different communities playing against each other.
And
that's what's happening.
I understand the police have also sent out a challenge to the Barbados Police Service to play some road tennis.
Yeah, they have. The Toronto Police said they want to play against Barbados. And funny enough, I met yesterday at breakfast with the Chief of Police for York Region. And he said, okay, let's get this done. I received a call today from Inspector Alexander at the York Police. He says, okay, Ron, let's get this going. Toronto's in, let's go. So we've got 2 big police. So you've got the largest municipal police force in the country, the Toronto Police. And the third, which is York, are now going to be engaged in road tennis. Nobody saw this coming.
Wow. And our sports minister just last week, he said that in 2024, plans are afoot to have an international road tennis tournament. Now, of course, it is not developmental. When we have an international road tennis tournament, we're going to try to get the best from every country to come and play, etc. Do you think that in 2024, you may have a player or 2 worthy of coming to a road tennis tournament here where road tennis was born?
Well, here's the thing. There's interest, right? But for me, it's the youth. We want to see a youth tournament. I think that's the growth of the games and the children. So I would prefer to see the kids, from a sports standpoint, be out there rather than the adults. But that's my personal perspective.
I think that's a real one, Ron. As you said, it's developmental, and I think obviously we can plan ahead to maybe 2026, 2027. But for now, the development is actually quite impressive, and I want you to keep up the good work. Unfortunately, our time is gone, but I'm sure you'll continue to keep me posted on what is going on. And of course, I'm sure we'll have you back here on Final Score. So thank you very much, Ron. I'll be back to wrap up Final Score in a moment.
Thank you.
Here's what's coming up this weekend in sports. The Pan Am Games in Santiago get going in earnest tomorrow. And after tonight's ongoing opening ceremony, CBC's Damien Best will have reports during sports night throughout the games. The ODI World Cup continues in a few hours with the Dutch versus Sri Lanka at 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. that should be, followed by England and South Africa at 4:30 a.m. All live on MCTV's ESPN channels. The Cricket West Indies Super 50 also has a double header tomorrow. Hurricanes versus the Academy at 9 a.m. and Red Force versus Harper Eagles at 1 p.m. That 1 p.m. game will be live on MCTV's ESPN Channel 308. It'll be the final 2 days of the BCA's Elite 5th Series this weekend, and the final rally event for 2023 will be at Pool Plantation in St. John from 2 p.m. on Sunday. That's our program for this week. It's good night till next Friday, and remember, let's be careful out there.